Does it often feel like you have money and then you just start burning through it? Well, let's try to stop that burn and make sure that you can take some of your money, utilize it, and become rich. Anyone can become rich, and I'm gonna go over millionaire habits, tangible habits that you could utilize in order to create that rich mindset and become a millionaire and create massive wealth in your life. The first great habit would be making sure anytime you are watching any of my videos that you hit the like button, especially this one, because it will help me beat that YouTube algorithm and push my videos out to more people so I can make more money too, because when more people view my video, I make more, which will help you in the long run. Great karma, and I'd appreciate it. I'm gonna go over all these habits, and I'm gonna save my favorite one and the one that's helped me the most in my life for last, in hopes that you actually watch the whole video. So that very first thing that you should make sure that you do in order to create a rich mindset and develop millionaire habits would be to have delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is very simple. Most people, when they get out of school, start spending because they now have money, or when you get a new job, you start spending more of it. So instead of money that you earn, taking it and spending absolutely all of it, or thinking that you want or deserve something just because you have more money, make sure that you delay your gratification. Just like when I bought my very first property, I didn't just go and buy the biggest, best single family home that I could have. I bought a really dumpy duplex in a fantastic location, fixed it up, and while I was living there, I lived for free, and it increased a lot in value, and now I utilize it as a rental property that makes me a lot of money. So that was a much better decision instead of going for what I feel like I wanted in my dream home, which I still haven't purchased. The same can be true for other things like cars or things that you really want, and make sure you actually really want it, because oftentimes people are just comparing themselves with others around them and you buy stuff even though you don't really want it. But if you do truly want it and you're able to delay your gratification before getting it, that way you can set up your financial future, create yourself an awesome nest egg and cash flowing assets that allow you to achieve financial freedom before you pursue that thing that you do actually want. The next habit would be paying yourself first. Oftentimes when people get their paycheck, they put money towards fun, expenses, bills, car payment, whatever you may have, and then come the end of the month before you get paid again, then you save a little bit of money. But instead, if you reverse that, if you pay yourself first in terms of putting money towards savings and investments, then you're going to figure out the rest of your budget with what you have and only spend the remainder. So if you take care of those important financial things first and then do the rest of it later, then you are going to just inevitably start saving and building far more wealth. The third thing would be tracking your spending. Any good business out there has some type of asset and liability sheet. People are doing accounting, people are bookkeeping. Now, you don't need to be as granular or detailed or so extensive as some company that is public, so you're sharing all of your information with the world, but you need to use some type of app or potentially Google Sheets in order to track your spending to see how you're spending and if you could do better. Some great apps out there could be things like Mint or Personal Capital that can track all of your expenses, and then you just connect your bank account and credit cards and it will take all of your expenses, put them into various categories, and tell you how much you are spending every single month. So then you can see if you are spending somewhere way too much that you don't actually need or care about. You could then draw from that money and put it towards savings and investments and build yourself a nice financial future instead of wasting it on stuff that you don't care about. Even people who make a ton of money will still track a lot of their expenses just because they know it's very important to know where your funds are going so you're not wasting a lot of it. The important thing here is increasing efficiency and not just having a bunch of waste in your life like you would in other areas. The next, and I think this is one of the more important ones that I'm going to touch on, would be being solution-oriented. This is an extremely important one because oftentimes I hear people today, I can't afford a house, I can't buy this, I can't do that. It's so hard to be someone who can achieve some type of money in today's age. And that might be true that it's more difficult than it was, but in other ways, it's actually far easier in order to make more money so you can achieve those things you want. No longer could you be an ice cream scooper and buy a house and make minimum wage and buy a house, But there are so many ways for you to make money on the internet or ways to increase your income through W-2 earnings that it's actually a lot easier than it was, in my opinion. And the only reason I think that way is because I'm more solution oriented. There are people that I know or people that I work with that earn over $100,000 a year that have no savings, no investments, and don't do anything, and they spend a ton of money. And then when it comes time to being able to buy a house, they say they can't afford one. Well, yeah, if you don't save anything and you spend all of your money and you're not tracking your spending or paying yourself first, then of course you can't afford a house. And then they get in the mindset that I have a six-figure salary and I can't buy a house, this is unfair. So if one, you take up some better habits, and two, you think, how can I afford a house? Then that way you will find yourself in a much better situation. So for me, I really wanted to buy a rental property, and before I did some education and learning and read books, listened to podcasts, I thought I needed 20% down. And when I wanted to buy my first property, I was in Boston and I was looking at condos, and the cheapest ones were like $600,000. And I thought, well, there's no way I have 20% of $600,000, which is like $100-something thousand, while I'm making a $65,000 salary and just graduated out of college. But instead, I realized you could do an FHA loan house hack in a duplex, earn money on that duplex while you're living there, have a 3.5% down payment, just have to live there for a year, and then I have a rental. And today, that very first duplex that I purchased for $18,000 actually made me over $20,000 in just cash flow alone last year. So when you feel like your back is up against it and there's nothing you can do, just be more solution oriented and you will figure out ways, become more creative, imaginative on how you can get things done. When there's any issues or problems in my life, I don't just say, can't be done, won't work. I think about different ways that I can fix that issue, solve that problem, or who I can ask that will help me figure out how to answer that problem. You might scroll through TikTok or Instagram or see videos on YouTube about the next best way to make $1 million or become a millionaire, and you're wondering, is this actually a good thing to do with my time? And you have no idea unless you actually try it, but I see so often that people don't want to try things or new ways to earn money or start different businesses, even if they're extremely passionate about it, because they're worried about what could go wrong. And yes, a lot could go wrong, and if you have an emergency fund, that will help you through a lot of the times. But if you're just clung to your W-2 job and you feel safe with that, even though you really don't enjoy it, and you have all this other earning potential over here with something you're passionate about and you know you enjoy day in, day out, why not just take the risk and do it? And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to quit your job right away, but try that thing, see how it goes, put some money into it, and then you'll never wonder to yourself, what could have happened if I tried that? I see this a lot with people that I help with financial coaching, especially when buying rental properties. They run all the numbers, they see that the rental income and all the expenses make sense and they would make money, it's in a great location, but they just don't want to pull the trigger because they don't know it's going to be perfect. You have to take a little bit of a leap of faith and know that if things go wrong, that can be okay, you're just back where you started. If you think of failure more as education, then you can put yourself in a better mindset about what could potentially happen. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or get in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for college just to get some sort of paper, which can be valuable in order to get yourself a job. But people wouldn't be willing to spend, let's say, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on some type of business venture and having that fail. But at least you know many things by the time it fails, if it failed, and it could go really successfully if you do try it. So at least you're at minimum paying for an education. The second last habit would be having a lot of curiosity. Being curious is one of the most important things because it allows you to be more solution oriented, ask questions, and not take no for an answer. And I think the key there is asking questions because I'm someone who is really curious and I like to know what's going on, educate myself, learn. I'm just going to know and do more things because I'm curious. Because you act upon that curiosity, you ask questions about that curiosity, and because you're curious, you just want to do more and more stuff. And I'll go back to the example of rental property because it's near and dear to my heart. Because I was curious about how I could buy my first rental property, I asked more and more questions, I read more and more, I listened to more and more podcasts, I met with more and more people. That allowed me to figure out how could I do this thing successfully, which could take away from a lot of the questions that you may have about failure and uncertainty when you know that it's worked for other people in the past because you've read about it, listened about it, or talked to them about it. And the last one, which I just touched touched on a little bit would be networking. This is the number one thing that has allowed me to be successful in my life. When I first started getting interested in rental property, networking was the first step that I took because I heard everyone on all the podcasts that I was listening to talk about actually networking and meeting with people who have done this before. So I went to a bunch of meetup events, spoke to people, and because I did that, the very first property I bought, the real estate agent I used, I met at a networking event, and the person who sold me the property, I actually also met at a networking event, and they wouldn't have sold it to me unless they had met me and I had built some rapport or had created that relationship with them. So it's really important because your network is your net worth. And that might be somewhat of a silly saying, but it's extremely true. The more people you know, the more people you can help, the more people can help you. And it just allows you to open doors, and because you're curious, ask them questions and just figure out more things in your life. So networking with people will definitely make you far more successful. And some great ways and places that you can network with people, especially if you're interested in buying more real estate, would be through social media, for example. Some people have reached out to me on social media. You can go to meetup.com and look for meetups in your area. Facebook groups are fantastic. If you type in the area that you're in and real estate investing, you can find a ton of those. Or you could even go on Bigger Pockets, which is kind of like a mix between Reddit and Facebook, and ask for people who are in your area, the kind of things that they're doing to be successful in the space so that you could replicate the things that they are doing. Those are all of the habits, and just because you go and implement a lot of these today does not mean you will be rich tomorrow. Being rich takes some time, even though you may see or hear a lot of things on the internet of people getting really rich quickly. That is not the norm. It can take a lot of time, multiple years in order to get rich, but it's going to be a whole heck of a lot faster than if you never did any of these habits. So let me know in the comments below if I missed any habits, and I would appreciate it if you would like the video. That's another great habit. If you like watching my videos, make sure you like them before you hop off. And if you want to learn more about financial freedom and ways that you can build massive wealth, make sure that you subscribe and check out my videos on TikTok as well as Instagram. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.